The bold and the beautiful has never shied away from goodbyes. Characters walk outdoors, board flights, and disappear into new lives. Some leave quietly, others leave with chaos trailing behind them. But few departures carry the emotional weight of watching someone say goodbye when you've already watched them say it before. And this time, the name on everyone's lips is Taylor Hayes. Again, because from the very beginning, Taylor Hayes was never just a character. She was a cornerstone, a compass, a woman this show kept coming back to. And for the fans who have followed her across decades of drama, heartbreak, and reinvention, this latest goodbye doesn't feel like a storyline. It feels personal. Taylor Hayes first arrived in Los Angeles as a psychiatrist with poise, intelligence, and an effortless ability to hold her own in a world built on power and beauty. She wasn't a schemer. She wasn't a villain. She was something rarer on daytime television. A woman who led with her conscience. From the moment she stepped into Ridge Forrester's orbit, the show had something it didn't know it was missing. A love story built on genuine connection rather than manipulation, and for a long stretch of years, that was enough to make her one of the most beloved figures in the show's history. For a while, everything seemed stable. Taylor had her family, her career, her place at the center of the Forrester world. Ridge was hers. Steffi and Thomas were thriving, and it looked, at least for a moment, like the universe might finally let Taylor Hayes rest. For a moment, it seemed like the storm had passed. But the bold and the beautiful doesn't do calm, not for long. Then Brooke Logan happened, again, and that's where things get complicated. Because the Ridgebrook-Taylor triangle isn't just a storyline, it's the spine of this entire series. Decades of push and pull, promises made and broken, wedding vows exchanged and forgotten. And Taylor, more than anyone, has lived inside that triangle the longest. She's been the wife, the ex-wife, the other woman, the wrong party. She's played every role the show had available, and every single time she found a way to stand back up. But this most recent chapter carried a different kind of weight. Taylor returned not as a lovesick romantic. She returned as someone who had done the work. Therapy, growth, self-awareness. She came back grounded, centered, and genuinely evolved, and fans noticed. Because this wasn't the Taylor of 20 years ago clinging to a man who kept choosing someone else. This was a woman who had finally found her footing. Then the ground shifted. Again, Ridge made his choice, and it wasn't Taylor. It never quite is. Not permanently. That moment hit differently this time around. Not just for Taylor the character, but for the viewers who had invested years, sometimes decades, in rooting for her. Blindsided, exhausted, heartbroken. Not just Taylor, the fans too. And then came another crushing blow. Because it wasn't simply a romantic loss. It was a complete unraveling. Taylor's place in the Forrester family dynamic began to shift. Her connection to that world, a world she had helped build, had bled for, had returned to again and again, suddenly felt uncertain, unstable, gone. Steffi fought for her mother. Thomas rallied, but some fractures run too deep for family loyalty to fully repair. And Taylor, ever the psychiatrist, seemed to understand that better than anyone. Sometimes the healthiest choice isn't the one that looks brave from the outside. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the one nobody sees coming, leaving. That's the turning point fans are still processing. Not a dramatic exit with slammed doors and tearful ultimatums. Something quieter, more final. A woman deciding after everything that she deserved more than a life spent waiting in someone else's story. And choosing, finally, to walk toward her own. That moment became a turning point, a wake-up call. Because Taylor Hayes leaving isn't just about Ridge. It never was. It's about a woman who spent years defining herself through her relationships, her family, her role in other people's lives, and slowly, painfully beginning to ask what she wanted for herself. It's a question a lot of people recognize, not from television, from their own lives, from their own mirrors. That's part of what makes Taylor's story hit so hard beyond the entertainment. She isn't just a character in a love triangle. She's a mirror for anyone who has stayed too long, given too much, waited when they should have walked. It's a difficult truth, one that doesn't resolve neatly, one that the bold and the beautiful, to its credit, hasn't tried to rush. Social media has been divided, as it always is when Taylor is involved. Some fans are devastated. Others say this is the most empowered exit the character has ever had. A small but vocal group refuses to accept it as permanent, insisting this is simply the show laying the groundwork for another return. And honestly, they might not be wrong, because Taylor Hayes has left before. She's been presumed dead. She's been written out, brought back, recast, and reimagined. This character has survived more narrative resurrections than almost anyone in daytime history. And each time she returned changed. Stronger, more complicated, more real. That's a track record that makes permanence feel like a very flexible concept on this show. Sources suggest the door has been left open, at least creatively. Whether that door actually swings back depends on forces far beyond the canvas of Los Angeles. Contracts, creative direction, audience demand, the unpredictable machinery of daytime television. But here's what no one is debating. Taylor Hayes changed this show. She changed what it meant to be a leading woman on The Bold and the Beautiful. She brought complexity to a world that sometimes settled for spectacle. She asked harder questions. She modeled something messier and more honest than daytime television usually allows. And for that, she earned something rare. A fan base that doesn't just watch her, they feel for her. Which brings us to the questions fans simply cannot stop asking. Is this really goodbye? Or is The Bold and the Beautiful setting the stage for one final definitive return? Will Steffi and Thomas fight to bring their mother back into the fold? Or will Taylor's departure quietly reshape their storylines in ways nobody expects? And perhaps the biggest question of all, if Taylor does come back, what version of her walks through that door? Because the woman who left this time was different, and you can't unsee that, so buckle up. Because when it comes to Taylor Hayes, the story is never really over. Some characters leave a show, and some characters leave a mark so deep that the show itself feels different without them. Taylor Hayes is the second kind, always has been, because some women don't just survive the drama, they become it, and then they rise above it, and then, when the time is right, they come back for more.